Hi, everybody. It's Marlene with Miami Ghost Chronicles, Stories of the Supernatural. How you all doing? Well, today I have of course, another super interesting guest because that's the only kind I have. Super interesting ones. I have Valentina Ghost Girl, and Valentina is a psychic. Okay, and we're going to get into when we speak to Valentina about what that really means. And the reason why I'm saying that is, a lot of people think of, psychic and, they sometimes have preconceived ideas about what being a psychic is. Okay. So, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to interview her so that we find out, that there's more to it than what Hollywood shows us or what people think of, or that fortune teller kind of like stereotype. Okay, that we have, because I think it encompasses. Plus, there's different types of psychics. We have psychics depending on their ability. Sometimes they're medium, sometimes they're just psychic, sometimes they're both. Sometimes they get their messages different ways, So, but anyway, here we go. Hey, Valentina, how are you doing today?
I'm wonderful, Marlene. How are you doing?
Fantastic, fantastic. And there's my little dog having a moment. But of course, it's like, what? Yeah. So what else is my people know that I live in a house with animals. Like I said it at the beginning of my show one time. Is I have animals. You can't control animals. It's like
that's true. They are doing their own thing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But anyway, and you heard my introduction, and Valentina, I'm going to ask you what I ask all my guests. Depending, regardless of, what it is that, I'm interviewing you about, like, what, was there a series of events, or was there one event specifically where you realized that you had the ability, well, maybe at that moment you didn't realize it was being psychic, but that you later recognized that that's what it was?
Yeah, I want to go back just a second, and you said there's psychics, there's mediums. I'm actually a psychic medium, so
okay.
I want to stress that I am a medium, which is a more rare gift and more difficult.
Yes,
to
it
do.
is. It is, because not all psychics are mediums.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. With that said, now, without divulging my age, we'll just say that 27 years ago.
That's fine.
So I like to keep it a mystery.
Hey.
I had a traumatic brain injury, which was actually caused by a fall. It was a freak accident caused by an ex-boyfriend. And because, unfortunately, it took so long to go to the ER, which was about 4 days, that there was swelling and bleeding in my brain. Long story short, when I finally got there, after many things got jumbled in my brain, from there I noticed I could hear wiring in, I could connect with electricity, I could hear wiring in the walls. I was hypersensitive to everything, cried a lot. Everything became very, as I learned to live with all these defects that physically were caused by my brain for a year and a half. Some of them came back, other ones didn't. When everything sort of aligned and fixed itself, I noticed that I could sense death on people. I could sense people's ailments.
Really? Wow.
Everything became very, and I would push things away. I mean, I would tune into celebrities, and suddenly a celebrity would cross my mind. And then like a couple of days later, I'd see on the news that they died.
Oh.
So I got to the point where I'm like, I'm making people die. I better stop thinking about this, because I'm like, and then just the things that I would know, but I got really good at tuning into death for some reason. That was like my forte.
Okay.
And then, and ailments and things like that, physical things. Fast forward to just putting everything out of my mind for a long time. I have a whole book written of what I used to call back then coincidences, not knowing that these were insights, premonitions, psychic abilities. Fast forward to about 2010, I went out with to a paranormal convention, and I was over in Long Beach.
That's the perfect place. Okay.
Yeah. When I all these ghosts came forward and started telling me how they died.
Oh.
And yeah, from there I started thinking, I really kind of like this. So I went from having my gifts and just focusing more on the paranormal because there was just something like ghosts for some reason really take to me. I don't know if it's the fascination of me or what, but I found it was very easy for me to communicate with them.
Okay.
And then from there, I started a paranormal team, which one of my team members was sensitive. And he's like, you know what? You're psychic. And I said, no, that's for people on TV. I'm not psychic. And so he was like my Yoda. He really believed in me and watered me until he was pretty much like, I can't do anything for you anymore. You've gotten so advanced so quickly that I'm out.
Okay.
So from there, I worked. I kind of felt, well, gosh, I don't know how to do this. How can you just leave me here, on my own to fend? So I spent about 4 months doing nothing but mastering my brain to the point where in correlation with the universe and everything around me. I read as much as I could, but I mean, books will there's no textbook for being psychic.
Right.
You can learn what someone else did, but that sure as heck isn't going to work for you.
You might be different on a different wavelength.
Exactly. So I found the books, I stopped reading them because it's like, well, this is not helping me for me. What happens when I feel this? That there's nothing in that book because this person doesn't feel that. So it became very frustrating to sit and figure out what to do.
Okay.
But everything... Go ahead.
So let me ask you something. At the beginning, before you, like you said, after you had this injury, okay? And did you think it was just a brain injury, or like you said, all of a sudden it sounds like you amplified your ability to be sensitive? What was the first time that you had that, like you described, you saw death, because that's a very good way of putting it, that you saw death on somebody and you're like, okay, this is not coincidence. There's something more to this. Was it a famous person? Was it a family member? Do you remember when that happened?
It started, yes, I remember, because it's to this day so crazy. So I had a family friend. I was living north of LA, and I had to go down and work on a movie. So my friend said, well, why don't you stay at my house, and I'll go up and visit your husband at the time at your house. So I said, great, we'll switch houses. Because I had to be in LA for 3 days. So I said, great. So I put the key into his house. I opened the door, and I was hit with what felt like, and to this day I can only describe it as a wall of void.
Wow. So
much that I closed the door, I got on the phone, and I said to my then husband, I said, I just need to tell you, but so-and-so is never coming back to his house again. I need to have a witness. I know it sounds crazy because he's sitting right now on your porch and whatever you're doing, you're having a good time, but I need someone to know this. And then I hung up and I walked right into his house. 3 days later, he started coughing up blood. The next thing, he's on dialysis. 9 days later, he passed. Up in our town, he never made it down to his house.
So in other words, this was like an totally unexpected death, is what you're saying. Something that...
Yeah, out of the blue. And this has nothing, I know it sounds like I'm running around putting curses on people. I don't do that. But you have to think back, to call somebody up and feel the need to tell someone with such conviction, because when I say things, I'm taking a chance that someone's either going to go, okay, I'm going to do what you say, or they're going to be like, okay, call the loony bin. I'm taking a chance every time, I never know how people will receive it.
Right.
And when my ex-husband and we don't talk anymore, but when I sit and say, remember that? He's like, yeah, that was really freaky. Because now, as crazy as that sounds, the events leading up to it, it was true. Mm-hmm. But the feeling that I felt was that person's energy was completely devoid of his apartment. It was already pulling away. It was already gone. And that's what I'm able to feel. When people start to leave this earth and make preparation, they have a specific feeling. And I am notorious for being able to tap into that. And the way I thought, well, how am I supposed to use this for anything? Well, if people have friends or family that they need to fly in, this will help people not be like, oh my God, we didn't see this coming. Mm-hmm. So in this way, I can't step in and prevent them from dying, but I can make sure that everyone that needs to be there can at least be there for that
Right,
final
right.
thing.
Let,
So that's how I learned to sit there, because it's like, gosh, it feels like death on people. There's no grim reapers over their
well, you know
shoulder.
what? And that's what I was about to ask you. Do you ever go walking down the sidewalk? Do you ever see anything besides a person? You know how sometimes they say, people say, well, you see something, or I'm going to use the Grim Reaper, but it could be anything.
Yeah,
Where you say, or you see like a little thing on top of somebody's head. Does
yeah,
that
it's
ever
a little
happen?
arrow. He's
Yeah, like,
dead.
hey, that one's next. I mean, I know that, but
Um, I'm not. At least for me, I don't see death. I will see dark things, which sadly are demons.
okay.
I will be able to see those on people. I can feel those on people.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very real thing. But do I ever sit there and look and, like a movie and everyone's got a mark on them that I know who's going to die next? No. If
Okay.
I get near them and they will, or they've got an illness, then I can feel them. But it's not like a glowing thing. At least I'm not
Because I was
really
thinking,
sure.
if that was the case, you'd be going crazy. I imagine you'd be like, okay, I can't leave my house because I'm going to be looking at people and then, well, let's face it, even if it's a stranger, after a while,
Right.
it's got to be disturbing if every time you looked at somebody, you could tell that person was going to die.
Yeah,
And
I
let me
mean,
ask
it
you, is
almost.
there a time frame that, let's say, if you come in contact under those circumstances that you described, that you see something, is there like a time frame? Is it a week, 2 weeks, a month that you could say between this time and this time?
Well, it's funny you could say that, because once I realized I had that ability, I'm like, okay, so let's figure out, we got to figure out the time frame. So I sat and looked, because my friend, the first one, it was about a matter of 9 to 10 days. I
Mm-hmm.
had a friend who I warned his best friend mother was going to pass. That was 3 days. Of course, nobody listened to me on that one. And then,
Okay.
what did I say? So, and then for my own parents, I predicted my own parents passing, and one was within a day, and one came kind of out of the blue. They kind of took me both by surprise,
That
unfortunately. I
must have been
said
very
that.
difficult, though, Valentina,
That
because,
was probably the hardest, because I knew by now, I know what it feels like, and
right.
walking into people's homes, my parents for this case, and feeling that they're passing but they're still alive, and I'm like, no, 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 I know what this means. Please don't take him, please, please. I wanted the feeling to be wrong. I want it so
Mm-hmm.
bad for the
Right.
first time in my life to be wrong, and damn it, they left within 14
Okay.
days of each other. And so I'm like, which also propelled me more into, after losing them, that was everything I had. Um,
Okay.
I'm an only child. I don't have family or anything. I lost my whole family 2 years ago. So from that point on, I realized I needed to dedicate my life to healing and helping others. And as much as I love doing the psychic part, it's not as rewarding unless, people do the advice I tell them to. But
Right.
being able to contact loved ones, bring healing and validation immediately is what I live for, because that not only heals me,
Right.
it heals them. And I work with
Sure.
my mother. She works on the other side with me. So it's an
Oh, really?
opportunity for us to be together again.
Oh, okay, cool. And because I know that a lot of, well, like you said, the psychics that that are mediums, that are able to contact the other side, they say, you have to set up very firm boundaries, because if not, you're going to have all these people that want to communicate. They don't care whether you're trying to sleep or whatever. So I know that one of the things they say is that if you have this ability, you have to be
It's
very firm about your boundaries, so that you know, you, I'm sure. Did you ever see that movie Ghost with Whoopi Goldberg?
it's so funny, because I saw it. Obviously, it came out before my
Oh, well, it was
abilities
like a long
kicked
time
in.
ago,
I
but
know. And then people are like, oh, you're like Ghost. And so I actually had to dig that movie up on Amazon. And I'm like, let me see, because I really don't even remember. Because back then, it was just kind of a movie. You didn't really apply it. You didn't care. And now that it's more coming into fruition, I'm like, oh my God, yes, they are kind of. I mean, they literally are standing behind
right, like
me.
everybody wants to elbow the other one out of the way, like, hey, it's
They
my turn.
do. They do sometimes they speak over each other. I find that sometimes they are very respectful, though. But it is like I sleep and I get my hair pulled, or somebody's talking to me. I'm in the shower, somebody's talking to me. I was in the ER a few months ago, and suddenly a name came in. And I was like, oh, and I start looking around the room like, who am I supposed to give this message to? And I said, you know what? Damn it, I'm in here in the ER. The concern is
Oh,
for
I can
me now,
imagine
not
an ER, an
you.
emergency room.
Right.
Oh
Why do
my
you think
God,
I'm
a
here? Not to give a
hospital.
message.
There must have
So
been a
I
line
said,
around the building to try to talk to you at a hospital.
so I had to push them away. I said, you know what? In this case, I'm sorry. I can't take you right now. I'm here because I'm having difficulty breathing. So I think my case is a little more important than
Yeah,
yours. And I pushed them out.
I've got a living body to take care of. Thank you.
I can't help you if you don't let me help me
Yes,
first.
that's right.
So yeah, I
Yes.
can't. It's 24 hours. There's no time zone up
Oh.
there, and so I just have to. But I've gotten better. I do say no a lot more now.
Well, you know what? Like they say, in the spirit world, they don't measure time the same way we do. And of course, we're living in the physical world and we've got, like you said, things to take care of, like your health. So let me ask you, you know, do you ever have, like you just had that experience, like, do you ever have somebody say something to you that they're haven't gone on, but they feel like, hey, I need you to pass this message on to somebody, and you're like, who? Like, what, you want me to do what?
Well,
I
that
mean,
happened last night.
really?
I was going to bed, and the only thing that was on my mind, which pretty much clears before bed, was like, oh, I can't wait to lie down. All of a sudden, somebody screamed, "She's pregnant!" And
Oh,
I
oh
sat
my
up. I'm
God.
like, who? What?
So,
What am I supposed to do with this message? Who's pregnant? Is this a good thing? It felt like a surprise, but somebody, I'm like, man, is it tomorrow's client, which was today? So
right,
today's
right.
client came, and I said, by chance, are you pregnant? She's like, what are you talking about? I said, okay, I guess it's not for you then. I said, don't, calm yourself down.
It was
But
like, that's
I
like a
didn't
soap opera
know.
moment.
Right, it was so hilarious because it was like they were screaming in my head, but that was all that came. It wasn't like,
Hmm.
okay, the third client this week or tell so and so. It was just like, what am I supposed to do with
Okay,
this?
what am
I'm
I going to
sorry, I'm
write?
not
Ask all my clients, are you pregnant? Unless,
right. It's like, even men.
yeah, exactly.
So now I'm like, okay, unless you give me more, that message is going to die because I don't know where it's supposed to go. So for now, it's kind of the mystery thing right now, but they were so adamant. It was yelled in my head. And when they yell, it's like, you got to get this, but I don't know where it goes. So that one's kind of floating.
Right, right. And I imagine, do you see them? Do you hear them most? How is that they normally communicate more to you?
My gifts go, all of them. I've got all the clairs. There's 5.
Hmm.
The hardest one is smelling. I think Claire olfactory. I can hear if they choose to talk loud enough. They talk telepathically in my head.
Okay.
Um, they show me pictures. They speak to me. Sometimes I can remote view. I can go over
Oh,
places and walk
wow.
around and see things. Sometimes they show me through their eyes. I've been in the back of cars and sat there and watched the scene because I relive however they died. So I will ask them to show me, and sometimes I feel how they died. Sometimes
Hmm.
I'm standing and watching them die. Sometimes I'm seeing it from their perspective. I never know how I'm going to be shown that. Sometimes I feel the pain. Whichever, each spirit is different in which way they want to communicate, and
Okay.
a lot of it I don't have. Like, okay, the whole scene's going to be just shown to me. I go between feeling things,
Okay.
physically, emotionally. I'm sometimes mentally shown things. I'm sometimes there. It goes across a lot. For my gifts, it goes very across the board. There is no one set way. I'm very intense when I do the readings and very thorough, which is why
Okay.
I'm able to get such details. Just go
So
ahead.
let me ask you, and you know what? I'm going to bring this up, Valentina, because a lot of times, um, like especially like the Hollywood, like that program that they had, Medium, where they think that you know all the entities or the discarnates that come and communicate with you are nice. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Do you? And by this, I'm not saying demons. I'm not going there.
right.
I'm talking
The
about people
unpleasant.
that were real SOBs when they were alive, so they're not really that nice afterwards. Do you ever have where they come to you and you're like, wow, I don't like
Yeah.
your vibe, but they don't care because they want to communicate with you since you're able to, see or hear them or whatever the case is. Has that ever happened to you where you're like, I don't want to deal with you?
Most of the time they're pleasant. I have had, much to my clients' dismay, sometimes there'll be people that I feel they're around. I can feel them, but I said they don't want to talk. And I will try my hardest to get them to talk. And
Right.
finally I say, you know what, I got to give up. And they're like, that's okay. They didn't like me when they were living. And even though they're supposed to convert and cross over, sometimes
Yes.
they carry that dislike. And I said, I know you're going to think I'm lying. I feel them here. They're here. They just don't want to say anything. So they almost come out of curiosity, but for whatever reason, they're still holding grudges, which I'm still trying to understand, because they're supposed to, when they pass, they convert
Yeah.
of, love and forgiveness. But whatever went on, and there's a lot of family drama usually.
Yes.
They just don't want to talk, and it's like, oh my gosh, now what do I do? I feel like I'm
Well,
making
yeah,
it up.
and
And then my client confirms it, and they're like, oh, I knew they wouldn't talk to me. I'm
right.
like,
It's
okay,
like, yeah,
well,
they're like,
let's call it a day then.
whatever it is, they're still hanging on to it. And you know what? And I think, like you said, if you ever even knew what it was, it's not a big deal. But what they say, everybody's perception is their reality. And if for them this was a big deal, maybe they're not ready to get over it. You stole my husband, or you
Exactly.
stole my girlfriend or my boyfriend. When 30 years ago, they're still,
Yeah, some people I know that they when you get up there, you work through a lot of stuff that you had on your earthly plane. So this could be just that they're still working through some issues before they heal. But it is most of the time they're really happy to visit. Some I can't shut up. Other ones is like pulling teeth. I get a little bit at a time, and then a few are quiet. But I think it's good that these reality shows have opened up people's concept to
right.
accepting this. But I always tell my clients, I know you watch whatever shows, I'm not going to mention them, but every psychic festival is different, and
Right.
it's not, that stuff is very heavily edited, because
Sure.
it doesn't come that quick. I said, this is a process. Think about
Absolutely.
it. I have to go all the way consciously, all the way up there to the universe. That's a pretty freaking far place. And pull these people down while they're being generous enough to come halfway down to meet me. So even though I'm physically sitting here, I have to spiritually, consciously go all the way up there. So that takes some time. This is not, So I think I'm probably very different than a lot of psychics in just the mannerisms and the way that I conduct my readings.
Right.
But everyone's been very happy with them. But I do warn them, this isn't going to be like TV. Stuff's coming right and left, and I'm saying this
Yes.
and that.
And you know what? I'm really glad you point that out, because a lot of people think that that's the way it is, and sometimes the spirit world, it's not that easy, even with a medium or a psychic, to come through, or that you're going to sit there and go, and, and all of a sudden you're going to give them like, a 3-page story of what you were. It's like, no, sometimes, like you said, they've got their hang-ups, or maybe, they're like very, like personalities, they're different, and I understand also that sometimes being able to pick up psychically sometimes will vary from day to day, depending on the circumstances of what's going on, because let me ask you, have you ever had, and I know this might sound like, why would anybody do this? Have you ever had anybody come to you for a reading, like, I want to pick up on this, but they're almost like in disbelief. They want you to do it, but they're sitting there and being difficult for you to pick up on stuff, like, okay, so do you want me to, to help you communicate, or you don't want to? It's almost like they're afraid of you actually proving that there is communication, in the afterlife.
Yeah, I've had somebody, I had a family, let's see, there was mother, daughter, maybe another daughter, and a man came. So I thought, okay, great. I love it when men come, because men are the least open, and they're always a bit skeptic. So everyone came through, everything was going great, and I go, I feel like you almost didn't want to come. He's like, yeah. I said, don't worry. That bank robbery a few years ago, that's not going to come out. And
Oh,
it was a total joke. I'm a bit of a smart ass, but it was a total joke. But that I had to do something to put him at ease, because I think people sit there and they're like, everything dirty and all the laundry is going to come out. And I said,
Yes.
this is a visiting time. Nobody cares what you did or didn't do. This is not. So he almost didn't come. Sometimes it's weird because people call me and there's such a need. They need to talk to the one on the other side. And then sometimes I've had a couple people flake because suddenly I go, what happened? Oh, I got scared. I go, scared of talking to your loved one. What do you think is going to come through? This is the person that you knew, and there's nothing unfamiliar. But suddenly there'll be that person that suddenly they really wanted to and then they didn't. And to me, maybe that's just me, but I would always want to. And then the other thing I have to say, which is very important for your listeners, any psychic will have a difficult time reading someone that is skeptic and coming from a place of deceit. I know I can speak for myself. I do not like to be tested. If someone sits there and tricks me with something, maybe they put a wedding ring on and they're not married or vice versa. What you don't get is we read people. So you think you're being smug with sitting there testing me, but all I'm reading now is your deceit, okay? Exactly. Which doesn't work because I'm reading your energy, and if you're sitting there going, let's test her with this, let's throw this out, and this, all I'm getting is deceit. It doesn't matter if I get it right or wrong. I'm reading your deceitfulness and your trickery.
Right.
So it's very important to come with an open mind and be open to the whole experience and believe somewhat partially in it so that this could be a productive, what I like to call
because I really think that that's just an excuse for people that are almost afraid that you
They want to be in denial,
Yeah,
because
and it's like, well, you know what? If she's, like they're afraid of the moment, when you start coming through with things that only this person that passed on knew about, and they're going to be like, oh my God, especially if they've got some hang up or some regret because,
Yeah, they want to find it. And the thing is, I don't ask for any information. People, I've had people, I had one person say, oh, well, you could reverse look up my phone number. I'm like, you know what, first of all, one, I don't have the time. I'm so busy. I don't have time for anything like that. I don't Google anyone. I won't even friend people on social media until afterwards for reading because I want nothing accused. But when I'm able to pull information, I had a client say, tell me, you pulled up stuff that you couldn't even possibly Google. And they came skeptic, but I already felt and tuned in and knew that they were going to be skeptic. So I already around that, and I worked very hard to do everything I could to prove and give them valid things. When I can read, I can already pre-read and know that here comes two skeptics. Now I got to pull out the big dogs. So I bring things that they can validate, and this couple was like, wow, you pulled stuff you couldn't even Google, so you are real. But it sucks that I have to work that extra hard to prove,
Oh, absolutely. I can, I can think this is like, okay, we're starting off on the wrong foot here. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Why are you even here then if you can't even be open to it? But I get it. Unfortunately, there are a lot of bad psychics out there, scammers, so I get put under that umbrella. So I have to work hard to prove myself all the time.
But you know what? You made a very valid point earlier, Valentina. Out there, people sometimes are conditioned to think that psychics or mediums, it's like an on-demand thing, like, poof, here it is,
Right.
And that it's a process, and everybody's going to be different. Every situation's going to be different, But again, I personally think that when people put you to the test, more than anything, I think it's an excuse that they're almost afraid that you are going to come through with a valid message. And then what do they do with that? You know what I'm saying? Because it's almost like, I want to communicate with that person, but like I said, if there's regrets, even if there's love, sometimes people just rather not believe that this person from the other side could maybe be around, for lack of a better word,
I mean, I find more the testing. The thing is, it's so funny because the two readings are so different. I love the mediumship readings the most because that's where I can validate things the quickest because I'm pulling from people I don't know at all, and I get the validation from the living person. When I'm giving psychic readings, a lot of things will not be validated, especially when I get information for the future. You might validate that in 2 years, you might in 5, and who knows if they're going to call me in 5 years and go, oh my God, I did get a blue car. You're right. It's just, it's you throw it out there, and then you're like TikTok. It could be who knows when I'll get the validation. So there isn't an instant gratification that comes with mediumship, where you can immediately validate, and that makes me feel good because it's like, okay, I am on track. But the psychic readings, you just send people off with information. So I tell all my clients keep in touch with me. I said, the minute something comes true, text me, and I'll get texts coming in, and then I go back and I add to my notes, okay, this came true on this day, so I'm not crazy.
So there's that validation of, like, maybe when I threw it out there, it was nothing, there was no point of reference. And then, which is great, by the way, it's fantastic because, like you said, maybe when you deliver the information, they're like, okay, well, and then later on, or they go back, because I've heard of people later on finding out, hey, you know what she said, or that name she gave, or whatever?
Yeah.
Now we know what that's about.
Yeah, and I say, look, not everything's going to make sense right now. Don't worry about it. Don't be disappointed. It doesn't mean the reading was wrong. It's just not information for now. And even names, I've said names, and the person's like, you're right, I did date a guy with this name. And I was like, okay, who? Because when you're giving it out, there is that moment of like, okay, they're not reacting, so I'm feeling disappointed in myself. But then when that validation comes back later, it's like, okay, I wasn't crazy. I just know now that not information can be validated for now. So the psychic readings, people don't always leave so happy, whereas when you've contacted a loved one, you get that happiness and gratitude. So each two types of readings deliver two types of feelings, not only evoked in my client, but also how I feel after the reading. If I nailed it in a psychic reading, then I'm like, oh wow, I got this. There was validation right away. So some of the stuff is like, yay. And then other stuff, when I give information for the future, we're just going to have to sit and wait. Maybe they'll find my number later and tell me, or maybe they won't. But that's the end of that.
Valentina, have you ever found yourself in the position where during one of these readings, this spirit tells you something kind of disturbing, or that you're thinking, I don't know how this person's going to take this? Do you just give it to them and go, okay, I hope they can deal with it? Or do you kind of like think twice about, should I say this to them?
I've given myself the title, The Honest Psychic.
Okay.
I am very brutally honest because I generally care about the human race. So I tell people things to help their life. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to say it, and they'll be like, well, this other psychic said this. I go, maybe the other psychic lied to you.
Exactly, and that's what I'm getting to, that.
And it's like I said, maybe, did you ever think maybe the other psychic said what you wanted to hear, so it was a good reading, almost manipulating it, rather than to be honest? And I apologize ahead of time. I give a big speech before I start the reading, and I said, look, some of the things you're going to hear may not be what you want to hear, but I would rather have someone tell me the truth than tell me what you think you need to hear. So I said, I apologize in advance. Some of it may be, but I care about you genuinely. So, and they're like, no, please. And so they really appreciate that.
Yes.
So if other psychics want to, say whatever, then go for it.
Exactly. And that's my point, because, as human beings, we're very complicated, and we're not all, and, we all have bad emotions. And if you're, like I'm saying, even with loved ones, sometimes you have a complicated relationship, so I'm sure that there's got to be times where this person that they're trying to reach, especially sometimes if it's an unexpected death, some of the times maybe the things they're going to say might be, not exactly like little hearts and, bows and stuff like that. And,
well, I was talking more about the psychic part of the reading. The mediumship readings, there's never unpleasantries,
Okay.
That always goes pretty positively. It's more people come with relationships, and maybe every other psychic has said you're going to stay together, and then here comes
I see what you're saying. Okay,
you need to leave this guy, and they're like, oh my god, but everyone else said we're going to be together forever and ever. And I'm thinking, how generic is that? That's so easy to say that. You really can't. I mean, are they just giving a message, or are they truly reading this person? Because I will tell them, no, I don't think this is going to work out. And there was one girl last year. Everybody said she was going to be together. I said, no. I said, he's going to be leaving soon. 2 weeks later, I get a text. You were right. He got traded to another team. I said, see, that's why I do what I do. And because she was like, she thought this was the one. And I said, nope, he's going to be leaving soon. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, he was gone. He was traded to another team, suddenly bought over. So I like to take pride in what I do, because I know it's not, nobody wants to hear that when they thought they met the love of their life, it's not going to last. But I'm saving people from heartbreak, you see.
Yes.
So
come on, you know what? And I'm sure when you're doing, especially when you tell them something like that, that's not what they expected. Don't you almost get the feeling that that's kind of like they kind of know it already? You know what I'm saying? Or they have a suspicion that they're trying to get that confirmation, because inside they know that there's things going wrong. Right. And like you said, they've made the rounds and they've been told, no, everything's going to be great. But when you tell them maybe what they haven't heard before, it's like they might not be happy with it, but deep down inside, because your subconscious is very powerful, they kind of had suspicion that things might be not what they would like it to be for whatever reason, which I would think, I know that a lot of people, especially when it comes to romance, they want that happily ever after moment. But it's like, wow, if this person tells me the truth and they're willing to risk, like you said, that, hey, this is not what everybody else has told me. She must be really good, because she's telling me what she's getting, even though it might not be what I want to hear. I mean, as far as, somebody that you're saying, this is a person I can come back to and, consult with her on other things, because she's going to tell me the way it is, not the way I want to hear it. Which, if you think about it, that's what the whole idea of going to see a psychic is.
Exactly. And so, I mean, I'm here to be a spiritual guidance, using my gifts to help a person with decisions, or just to live the right life. And sometimes people don't always come for a reading. I mean, they do come for a reading, but sometimes it's almost like they just want the validation to hear it, and they're like, I knew that. And then the next thing I tell them, I knew that already. I'm like, okay. So this became more of a validation. Here's me telling you, by tapping into the universe, that you're on the right path or the wrong path or whatever. So now we have 2 votes. So go ahead and do what we suggested.
Right. Okay. So, and I see what you're saying, if that's what you want to hear. Now, you mentioned something earlier, which I thought was very interesting. You said that in this process, when you became a psychic, when you became medium, you also came in contact with dark forces. Okay. Some people call them non-human entities. Some people call them demons. What was your experience with that?
Well, unfortunately, when I truly just started to go ahead and do this, I opened up a little bit too much. Okay. Combined with me running around at haunted locations doing paranormal hunting, I guess some things, and I always said prayers before entering, but something attached and wreaked havoc like you wouldn't believe. I woke up with scratches all over me every 3 days. It tore pictures off the wall. It slapped in my bed. If ever I didn't believe in that stuff, I sure as heck do now. I have so much visual evidence of it that, but I mean, this is the person that, if you told me demons, whatever, lower entities, dark entities, 3 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, that's that stuff on TV that they make up.
Right,
it's
exactly.
Very real. You cannot have light without dark. It is very real. They were never human. These are entities that have been drawn up, usually surrounded with depression, drug use, alcoholism. Okay. They can be picked up at bars. Any place that has low vibration will have these type of entities lingering around to jump on a human so that they can start slowly taking the body over.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly.
It's very, very real. And it happened twice. So I got that house cleansed. I got that entity removed. I moved into another house. This was back in LA. And I'll be damned if it didn't happen again.
And was it something that was already in that house when you moved into it?
No.
Or the same scenario where you went somewhere?
No, this was, it turned out to, and I can't, for the sake of privacy, someone close to me was mentally not very stable. And I think when that person was around me.
Okay.
Something must have latched onto them
Okay.
through them. Got interested in me because of all the energy I have. So it was attracted to my energy because
Right.
it
It jumped
needed it
ship
to
from one
manifest.
to you.
Right.
Okay.
So once that house was cleansed a second time, exorcised by now a preacher who is a very good friend of mine because he literally saved my life. They were at the point where they were telling me in my head to kill myself.
Oh,
And
that's
he did everything. He goes, "We're not having that. We're going to fight. I'm going to fight for you." And he saved my life, and from that became a good friendship. But I have on the inside of my thigh, there is a keloid scar from one of the scratches. The other marks that tend to, there's not enough energy, so the other marks disappeared. But I do have a permanent scar from one of the scratches from the entities.
And Valentina, in the second time, did it manifest differently? Like, in other words, you realize, I guess, after the first time that, okay, something here is going on, but did it manifest the same way? Or was there a different flavor to it?
This one was again with the scratches and the marks,
Okay.
always usually in threes, but sometimes I've had just 2 scratches and sometimes just 1 scratch.
Okay.
Again, with ripping the pictures off the wall.
Oh.
It still fascinates me that something that can be unseen can figure out how to make a claw. And then go as far as to affect my objects in the house and rip them off.
Okay.
I played a religious song on the computer, and I was praying in the other room, and when I came back, the computer had been turned off.
Wow.
The first one was way more violent.
Yeah.
I mean, the slamming of the bed, the whole bed shook. And
No.
I went immediately on the earthquake app, in LA.
Oh, yeah. You're thinking, okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's an earthquake. There was nothing, so I'm like, holy cow. That one was way more violent and angry. I mean, it hated me. It was every 3 days something happened. It got to the point where I went to Disneyland for a while because I'm like,
Okay.
I got to go be around some sort of other obnoxiously happy energy.
Yes,
I'm afraid
right.
to go home. I can't be inside my house.
Isn't that terrible that your own home becomes the last place you want to be? Which is
Exactly.
That's very, very bad. That's like, and did you ever visually see what it was? Or was it
No.
just these things happening to you?
No, there was no shadow figures or any kind of anything. It had no vision. It had just claws, basically. I mean, it just had hatred and envy and just I've never been so scared in my life. When I videotaped, because I had my K2 meter going, and I have my milligauss meter, and I have never seen it go so high in my life. Right before my eyes, there was so much hatred, and in the video, my voice is like just cracking and shaking because for the first time, I was so afraid. But that's what what made it more powerful was that fear, and so now I'm completely fearless, and that's why they won't even mess with me anymore because I will never be that afraid to give something such power again.
Right, and trial by fire. Who was your knight in shining armor? Who came and saved you? Because
his name is Bill Bean, and he's been on the Travel Channel.
Yes, I know who Bill Bean is. Absolutely, I know who
Bill
Bean
is my best friend and my lifesaver. He's flown out to help me on cases here that were dark. I'll come with him, but I'm usually in the corner. I'll read the people and then I'll be like, Bill, there's something over here. Bill, there's something there.
Right.
And that's how we work together. But he steps in with the big dogs, the big armor, and he does the blessings and does that. It's more of a house blessing than it is really removing and exorcisms. So that's how we work together.
So let me ask him, what was it that Bill Bean told you or showed you that before? Because like you said, before you got that attachment the first time, you were doing prayers. You were thinking, I'm doing the right thing, going with the right intention, but regardless, you still got those attachments. What did he show you that now you do, which, like you said, now you're fearless? It's like, hey, no worries here.
Well, once I learned that things get stronger from fear,
Okay.
I decided to remove fear altogether. There's nothing
Okay.
that scares me. Snakes, spiders. I mean, I've sat in pitch black places doing investigations. I dive with sharks. There's nothing that scares me. He sent 30 warrior angels to be with me and protect me.
Okay.
And at first I was like, yeah, whatever, 30 warrior angels. That's really cute. And then I went to get a Reiki reading shortly after.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, oh my God, your crown chakra. She goes, you are so protected. I was like, and? And then I realized 30 warrior angels. Holy cow, I am protected. I can kick ass now.
Yeah, it was like, then, it's real.
It is real. And then I remember the day in the second house, I remember, there's certain things you don't forget in your life.
Oh, sure.
And I was sitting and I felt the dark entity slither away and retreat. And suddenly the house filled with light, and it felt light and not heavy.
Right.
And I was like, we beat this thing. And it felt, I mean, I have never felt something so contrasty as to that. Like it just had a whole, like as if the house was filled with smoke, and then suddenly somebody blew the smoke out.
And you know what? I hear a lot of people describe exactly what you're saying after they've gotten house blessings performed or things like that. Like they say, it's not a question even of the lighting, but it's just that it's lighter inside the house. Like the feeling, everything changes, where you can actually recognize it visually that there's a difference.
Yeah.
So So have you, now that you're fearless, you said sometimes you accompany him and you kind of like are in the background giving him your psychic impressions of what you're seeing?
Yeah, so we found a way to work together. I will use, because when he's blessing, his focus is on blessing. I mean, he's spiritual, so it's a little different. So I'll use my gifts. I'll walk through the house. I'll go, okay, that corner needs an extra spot there, so bless that.
Okay.
I will walk through. I was in someone's house, and I found things that needed to be gotten rid of. There was a doll that was quite. It was like a Hamilton, it was like one of those Franklin Mint or Hamilton,
Yeah. They sell them. They come
really
out like in series and stuff like that. Yes,
exactly. And they're like, "Is there anything you need us, to throw away?" And I'm like, I said, "I don't know how fond you're of that doll, but that doll does not have good vibes." So I go through and find things that need to be thrown away that don't have the best energy. And of course, these people. You can't clear a house and then leave one little ugly thing. Absolutely. So everything must go. No.
Hold on, folks. She'll be right back. Let's see. I hope she's coming back.
Are you there? I'm sorry.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
I hope it didn't pause it or anything.
Don't worry about it. So let me ask you something, Valentina. And you know what? And I'm glad you brought that up, because I know a lot of people don't realize exactly what you're talking about, especially when they talk about doing house blessings. They're thinking, I want to bless the house or bless the space. And there's a lot of people that go out there to garage sales and pick up things and curbside and, so-and-so's grandma. And they bring in a bunch of stuff. And it could be the most cutest little thing. And it might have an attachment, and they don't realize that if you're going to be in the habit of doing stuff like that, you got to be a little bit careful, because you might be bringing something home, and then all of a sudden things start happening.
Right, and my advice to that, if you're going to pick up cutesy things or cool things, I personally like to just buy new things, because it's not because I'm a snob, but I want to put my own energy in there. I don't trust old things, as cool as they are. I mean, the old things I have are from my grandparents' house, so I know they're cool. But if you're going to bring something home, I suggest you sage it or incense it, smoke it out, and then I suggest you hold it for a while and try to infuse your own energy into it.
Right.
So And then should people start getting sick or weird things start happening around the house, I would start paying attention to if they're happening near this object.
Okay.
And if it starts getting dangerous and people start getting sick to the point where, their life is being threatened, I would by all means burn if you can and destroy and throw as far away as you can this object, because this object may have been used in a ritual or was around something dark. So
right, it was just
objects,
there.
exactly, so make sure that, or if you're buying it, make sure that you talk to the person, find the history of it. If so, some sort of slavery or murdered or something, around things like that, it can easily absorb that, and you just want to make sure you're getting an item that is clean, so to speak, and not centering around a lot of death.
So I imagine then that your advice to, let's say, there's a bunch of people out there that now they buy stuff on eBay, or they hit garage sales or estate sales, or even, that they do the curbside stuff, or that if they ever get like in other words, trust their gut. Like if something just gives you the wrong vibe, leave it. Leave it,
Yeah, and it's easy to tell because, if you're getting something that looks like a weapon, a knife, a sword, okay,
yes,
that's pretty much a no-brainer right there.
Yes, I've heard that people that collect weapons got to be really careful.
Exactly, because you never know if that was just fun or it killed someone. Any doll, anything with eyes can easily absorb. It's looking at something, so it can absorb. Mirrors, especially. Oh my God, I got a call last year of dead people being seen in a mirror. This cool old mirror they bought.
Oh.
And I said, you know what? And they sent me the pictures, and sure enough, I could see people in the mirror, so it was not crazy. I said, I think maybe you should cover the mirror for now. I know it's a cool mirror, but I really don't think it's worth having. At least if you cover it, you are no longer, because mirrors absorb souls of people and absorb things that you're looking at. So you have to, my TVs are all covered in the house. People are like, do you have TVs? I go, yes, they're underneath, because anything reflective will absorb. And so the TVs are covered in my house. I
was about to ask you, what is it? Was it because it had been used in some type of ritual, or was it just something that
it went back to slavery? And so as I read, I'm able to read pictures, so I read the picture of the mirror, and I said, you know what, it looks like the man is bleeding. He's coming to you for help. This was an older man in the mirror, and I said, he's hurt, and I could see other people around, and the mirror kept shifting. It was really, I would like almost pay to have the mirror, but I was like, I'm not sure if I need that. But it's like, it's kind of cool, but then kind of not cool.
Yeah, but the novelty's going to wear off really quick.
You're going to find me dead next to the mirror here, and that was the end of that. And then someone else takes it, and it goes on and on. But I said, what I tuned into was the image in the mirror, and it didn't feel threatening. I said, you know what? You can keep the mirror, keep it covered if it freaks you out, but it doesn't feel threatening. In fact, I feel him bleeding in the stomach, so I feel like he's coming to you for help, but he doesn't know he's dead, so he thinks that you can help him with his wound. But my main thing when people give me objects and send me photos, I tune in to see if it's something they should be worried about, if it's dark or light. And then we can address it and figure it out. But this was not something that I felt. It's a beautiful mirror. I understand when there's a beautiful piece of something, you don't want to toss it just yet, no matter what it does to you. But I said, you either need to find out what he needs help with, or let him know he's dead. But some sort of intervention needs to come in to let this man move out of the mirror. Literally.
So but it wasn't like it hadn't become like a portal or a vortex or a doorway. It was just.
They were trapped, like literally, like that movie Mirrors, I think, with Kiefer Sutherland. They were in the mirror and trying to. So I guess in a way it could be a portal. I hate movie references, but like the movie Abyss, where
I know exactly what you mean. That you had that water,
glass, the water was keeping them from going through. So it's nobody's going to pop into the living room. However, they literally are like this, looking in. So I was like, whoa, this is the first time I've seen a case of like, wow, mirrors really do trap souls. I mean,
because I had heard that a lot. I had heard that. that the mirrors, that you have to be careful, and that some are used as gateways or doorways, or um, unfortunately for not so wholesome things to come through. So or that one, what was it that I heard, or like that never put the mirror on a wall that's on
Facing
that
your
the
bed.
over the bed, or that it's outside, like if it's one of your interior walls, you're okay, but don't put it like on a wall that the other side of it is to the exterior. This is what I've heard.
Got it. Yes, because it's yeah.
Right,
No, and portals are that's the other thing too. Portals are very serious.
hmm
There is no other way into this world unless it's a portal, whether that's a reflective device or literally a door.
right.
And of course, the damn Ouija board is the best
You're
portal.
getting ahead of me. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
You're being a psychic. Okay, but you see. But now that you brought it up, let's go down that
Okay,
bunny
but I was
trail.
just segueing into that.
Because that everybody now, it's the Ouija board. And there's the people that like don't even look at one because a clap of
Yeah.
thunder, you get struck by lightning, and you got other people that that use it, and but I imagine that the problem comes in with people who have no business, or not protected, or got things going on, whether it's alcohol abuse, drug abuse, or they just got stuff going on, and they start playing with the Ouija board, and it's like Shazam. What you got
Exactly.
is a
Oopsie.
big problem on your hands. What's your take on Ouija boards?
Well, a lot of the times, I've only encountered a couple of dark people in living, and I start sitting and reading them like, was there ever any dark practices? No, 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 no. I'm sure there wasn't a dark. Well, when we were 6, we
Uh-huh.
got this Ouija board out. I'm like, okay, that's all you had to say. I said, do you understand that little let's experiment, or let's like the movie? I
Uh-huh.
said, that is no joke. It's not a Monopoly game.
Yes.
This is, you just gave everyone a free ticket into this world. And I said, you've created a little bit of a mess. It can be cleaned up, but it's
Right.
not just as easy as folding up the board and bye-bye. I said, this is the problem. These things get in the wrong hands with people that don't know what they're
Right.
doing. You don't even have to be professional. I suggest you just don't fiddle with it. Learn to get some other communication going, but because that tends to be a free-for-all. And it's mostly bad that come through there. It's not really a lot of good. This is their
Sure.
portal for that. So it's just, and it's not even a joke. It's not even like something you joke with. This is very, very serious. And then
It is.
these are the people that sit in my chair, and they're suicidal. They're dark. Everything's going wrong in their life.
Exactly.
And they're like, I can't figure out why. It's like, no, that was that Ouija board way back then that you
Yes.
thought was fun.
You know what? And I've told people, what? Everybody thinks that when this type of scenario creeps into your life, let's say, let's use the example of the Ouija board. Sometimes it's developed slowly, like you said. You wear little by little, and you might have to go back months or even years. Especially if you ever ask somebody, well, when did this thing start changing for you?
Exactly.
And then they'll go, and then, and oh, yeah, what was that, 3 years ago? So are you telling me that for the last 3 years, everything's gone, yeah, well, guess what that was? And it's like, it doesn't
Yeah.
happen in 3 days. Sometimes it takes quite a long time, and then all of a sudden, everything in your life is caca,
Right.
And sometimes that's the way it works. It's not like the movies where, you know, things happen all the time right away, especially when it's something that and this I'm talking about where if we're talking something like whether it's a demon or whether it's a human discarnate, that their ultimate aim is to possess you. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You know?
And that's all. They need a body to work
Yes.
with. So They start investing, and then they attach, and then the last is possession. That's when they've got you, and then they move in, and that's when people, hear voices or they go shoot up schools. Those are little examples, and it often gets mistaken as just mental illness.
Sure.
Because that's easier to brush it under the rug than actually have to put demonic infestation or possession
for a lot of
on
people,
a medical record.
That it's a more acceptable explanation than to go down and say, well, but there is another alternative reason why you might be hearing voices, even though it might not necessarily, it might sometimes it is, but the other times it's not. And yes, absolutely. That's why, when when a lot of people say the Ouija board, I would say for a good portion of people, for whatever reason, is not a good idea, either because you're inexperienced and you don't know what you're doing, like you said, especially the young teenagers, which it's like, let me ask you, what do you think about people going to cemeteries?
Yeah. I used to hang out as a teenager just because I liked the peace. It was very
right. No, and
quiet.
I know that a lot of teenagers, this is like
that's the place to party.
Yeah,
and stuff.
exactly. Like,
it's more to psych yourself out. But to be honest, there's very few. If you're a dead person hanging out in the cemetery, you got to be pretty freaking stupid, because no dead person wants to hang out with other dead people. That's the very thing they're trying to avoid. Not. There's no energy there. They want to be where the living are. So if you want to go, I tell people it's nice that you go and visit the marker and the grave, and that's a tangible item. But you'd be better off setting off a little section of the house with a little bit of things, and because that's where that person is going to come and visit you, not at the grave. Dead people don't want to look down and go, oh, look, they're crying on a stone. They want to see what's going on when you're having dinner, when you're having breakfast. They're going to be around your house, not at the cemetery. But it's a fun place to visit, and again, it's something made so that people can make money off of the living. But I
know what you mean. That.
I mean, I sit there and I'm like, man, I should be in the funeral business. But
you know what? We could do a whole show about that, about the funeral business.
I was like,
believe it or not,
this is how much a coffin costs, And of course, with my parents, that's when I had to be in there, and I'm like, whoa, I didn't know. Because up until that point, I didn't really sit and think about what the price of a tombstone and a little tiny urn is. But when I saw that, I was like, geez, maybe I should, So the graveyards, it's nice to visit. There's some history, but it's going to be pretty literally dead, and in the sense of dead, not dead like.
Right, no, I know what you're saying.
The energy is like, wow, and so that's just a place, but I get it. It's a party place for teens or whatever.
Well, but everybody wants to have like that scare moment,
exactly, and that's fine. That's all it'll ever be. But I don't think those will be lost souls walking around. If you do capture stuff, ghosts and things, those are more really displaced souls that aren't up in a good place. They're just kind of walking around because they're attached to the.
They're hanging out because they've got no better place to be at. And
exactly.
Let me ask you, how does when you started doing this, how did it affect your relationship with living people? Did you, in other words, you're more sensitive. Let's face it. If you also get more sensitive about living people, like, was there friendships that you said enough of this, or what happened to your relationships with those around you?
All right. Well, let's start with friends. I've lost friends. I've gained new ones. My friends that are at this point in my life, they're very, I think in the beginning, my friends were kind of like, yeah, whatever. They didn't really believe what I did until they saw examples or, and other people saw what I did. And then it was like, now I'm the go-to person. So what do you think about this guy? Can you just check out this picture of this guy? Is this guy? What do you think? Should I sell my house? I'm like, funny how a few months ago you were laughing at me, and now I'm the go-to person for every little move in your life. I was like, well, great. I'm honored, but it's like, wow, why didn't you just flat out believe me in the first place?
Yeah, sure.
Relationships, I used to go on dates and information would come through and it would freak the heck out of the guy.
I can imagine.
And one guy even told me, he goes, "Get out of my head." I'm not in your head. I go, "I'm sorry, but your grandfather's just telling me stuff. I'm sorry." And he goes, "Who are you?"
Oh my God.
And I
That
go,
must have been such.
like I'm some false superhero or something. He's like, "Who are you really? Take your cape off."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Look." So now I preface it with, well, now I've gotten to the point where I don't even tell people what I do. I say I'm a life coach, which I kind of am.
Sure.
But and then I make sure that if they do find out, unfortunately, people can Google me. And they're like, "I Googled you," and I was like, "Oh," I said, "What did you see?"
It's like,
"Oh,
okay.
some YouTube videos, you singing." I'm like, yes, that's all I do. But should they find out, I say, "Look, please don't judge me. It is what I do. I never asked for this gift. I was more than happy living my life being a model and a singer and just being normal. It is what I do. I know it's unique. I do turn it off and give you the respect to tell me what you want to tell me. I'm not reading you. I'm not going to read you. I don't control your mind. But just please see me for me, the person I am, and not what I do." And it's hard. I've been on many dates. Nothing ever sticks. I think I scare people, which sucks.
I was
Now
gonna
it's
tell
almost
you,
like,
it's got to be a really self-assured guy to say, "I'm good with this," you know.
yeah, or open-minded, free-spirited.
Yeah, of
That's
course,
like, "Hey,
absolutely. Oh
cool."
yeah.
Because most are not. I've become energetically so powerful that and high vibrational that most people just disappear, or they can't even look me in the eyes when they're like, they're so
Yeah,
scared
she's
of
gonna
me.
see something in there, and you know, from when I was 15, and you know, or something.
No, it's literally become hell. If I could take it back, I mean, I won't. I will not sacrifice what I do for love. But I mean, there are times where I'm just like, man, I'll probably be lonely the rest of my life or alone because of this. But again, it's so rewarding. I love what I do so much. It's my whole life that I don't really care if I'm alone. I mean, I would like to find someone, but you know what? It's one person being rewarded, rewarding you, or rewarding thousands of people. So
Right. But
it's
like, it
more
sounds
gratifying.
almost like you want somebody, but it's got to be on your terms, and also it's not going to want you to be somebody that you're not. You know, like
The guy's got to be so special that he sees me for me and loves me for the quirky, fun person I am, and just is okay with what I do and sees it. And most guys don't even get to the point where they get to see. I might show a little tiny glimpse of what I do, so that they can see, because that's really the only way that if they were a fly on the wall and they get to see what I do, to understand that it's not this crystal ball I float up or whatever, moving tables or weird things. If they see that, then they're like, wow, that's really cool, But it never really gets to that point, and it's unfortunate because I'm so much
let's face
more
it, if
than
you
that.
start dating somebody, it's like a gradual thing that people disclose about themselves, So, like you said, if at the beginning this is not working for you, it's like, okay, so why
would they? Yeah, why would I even give them that satisfaction?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're already running towards the door. This can come out later once you like me. But if you're gonna, because people judge, they're already like, whoa, she does that. Okay, well, she must be this and this. So now they've already formulated completely wrong. If it comes out later, by the time they like me, then it doesn't matter. But but unfortunately, they can Google it very quickly. So even if I didn't say anything, they're gonna find it.
It's like, okay, you're gonna find out about this, and you don't have to be psychic, like for them to find out, like.
Yeah, and then I'm like, and I can even feel when guys are pulling away. I'm like, you lost that one, V. And then sure enough, I'll call them out on it. They're like, yeah, I just don't think it's gonna work out. And I was like, I called it. I can feel when people connect with me. I can feel when people pull away. It is on all the time. And all day long, I'll be thinking about somebody, and 5 seconds later, they text me. And they're like, I was just thinking about you. I go, I know. It sounds bad, but I know, because as soon as I think about people, I connect, and they contact me. And it happens.
Yeah.
So I realize the power of thought now. I mean, it's really scary. I have to be
Uh-huh.
careful who I think about because
And you know
I
what?
might not want to hear from some people.
You know what? And let me tell you something. A lot of people, psychic or not, they really don't understand how powerful the mind is, especially somebody that starts like really thinking, like putting intent into it,
Yeah.
where, either you're sending or receiving, one of the two ways. And you
Yeah.
described something earlier, Valentina, that it sounds like you do psychometry. Do you do
Yeah. Oh my
psychometry?
God. So funny. I meant to because of all my gifts. I read when I was reading the books. I was like, okay, which one are you? And I'm like, well, there isn't a which one because I feel all. I'm also. I think there's 4 types of medium. There's like a physical, emotional, mental, and
Right.
one other one. I'm all of those. And then I have a very rare gift of Well, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. Hang on, there's another gift I have too. Psychometry is holding objects and being
Right.
able to connect with them. I can do that.
Okay.
I can look at pictures and connect.
Ooh.
I can look at pictures of houses and tell you what happened in the house.
Cool.
No, it's really crazy. I mean, it's like well, the other thing, my more rare gift, extremely rare, is I have psychokinetic powers, also known as telekinesis.
Yeah?
But the problem is, it's happened 6 times now. I've started documenting it.
Okay.
I finally, it happened so randomly. It's one of those things where I have to just document the elements around when it happened. The first time it happened, I was in a store in Hawaii, and bread started flying off the shelves.
You must have been like,
I know.
That wasn't me. I didn't touch the bread. It wasn't me.
I was talking on the phone with my mother. I said, Mom, I gotta go. Something is happening here, and I don't know what it is. So I started hopping up and down the aisles because it was a long aisle. The whole aisle was bread, okay? So
Okay.
picture this. Nobody else in the aisle. The first loaf of bread nearest to me falls. Bagels in the middle of the aisle, and some other muffin or something at the end.
Oh.
So 3 different spots. There's one I would have allowed because it's in cellophane and plastic.
All right,
Maybe
yeah.
maybe I'm close to it. The middle one, the bottom one, 3 different places. So I'm like, oh my God. And I'm looking around. I'm like, I guess I don't know if they had cameras. I didn't think about checking for the cameras, but I'm just like, okay. And I kind of played it off like, I know I did that, but this is, okay, we need more proof because this is just, But the scientist part of me comes in and I'm like hopping around the aisles to see, and nothing moved, nothing wiggled. So I'm like, you did this, you did this. It's just that knowing that I did it.
So let me ask you, was there something going on? Because I heard a lot of times that people will displace kinetic energy when something's like, in other words, where they're either upset or mad or happy, like they got like an emotional high for some type. Was that going on with you?
Yes. So now that I've broken 3 different sets of glasses off of my face,
oh my God.
I have narrowed it down. It took because I lived in Hawaii. It took me 6 years to, with I think 6 or 7 different instances. I'll have to look at my book. I have now, thank God, narrowed it down to I don't feel anger or hate. I haven't in forever. So it's a very harnessed emotion.
Okay.
And I feel nothing but absolute love. And each time, because I had to look at the commonality across the board, it was an ex-boyfriend that I didn't hate him. I hated what they did to me.
Wait, stop.
What?
Let me tell you something. Hate, everybody's afraid of the word hate. You believe it or not, you can hate somebody in a moment. Doesn't mean you like hate them forever and never, amen. But you know what? Sometimes you said people do stuff that you're like, I hate you right now. And then you get over it and then it's like, okay. But those, let me tell you something. We're human beings. So that's why I asked you, because it's usually stuff like that you'll get that kinetic burst. Okay, like what you said, that all of a sudden you've got stuff flying off and you're like, oh, okay, how do I explain this? And it's really good that you start documenting it so that you're like, I need to figure out, is it me? Yeah, it is me.
It is me. So both times So here's where I got really geeky. Okay, so now we figured out. So because there's so many elements to this, and I just was dying for the next moment it would happen, so I could sit there, I could look at the temperature of the house, I could look at the temperature in me. So the other emotion I felt was intense love for the person.
Okay, which
So
makes
now
a
I
lot
know
of
you
sense.
cannot feel two emotions at the same time. So one cancels the other out, and thank God love always overrules.
Of
So
course.
those two emotions fight inside of me and create kinetic thermal energy because I
Okay.
got really hot seconds before. And then in the case of the
All right.
glasses, I literally felt like motion and energy here, and then all of a sudden the
Okay.
glasses broke. And I was like, and I immediately wrote everything down, the temperature in the house. I took my temperature. I checked the time. I looked at the date. Is there anything with the date of the time? What were you thinking at the moment? Oh, I was thinking about so-and-so. And oh my God, how dare they break up with me? But I love them so much. Yeah, but they broke your heart. Boom. And there goes the perfect nuclear reaction.
And that's exactly what happens when, especially like you said, it's not like one pure feeling. It's that clash of
It's
two feelings that are
simultaneous.
kind of opposite in a
I
way.
know. So I'm like, holy cow. Two emotions can break things and manipulate items. It's cool, but it's scary.
Sure,
I mean,
it is.
I break glasses. I've broken 3 sets of glasses in the same spot also, which is ideally fascinating.
How did
Um,
and
right here, on the frame.
oh,
Then I had books fly off the wall. I've been in stores. Also, the two elements are either at home for the
uh-huh.
glasses, or I'm in the store. And many times I was very close with my mother. I was always talking to her, and
Okay.
we would always talk about guys. And she would start getting me very riled up because she's like, "Oh, what about so and so? I wish you'd stay with him." I'm like, "Mom, don't you understand? He's a jerk." But I like him. I'm like, oh, so it would be, she would
Right.
start riling me up, and then I'd feel love for this person. I wish it could work, but it couldn't. And then the next thing, I would be standing, I was at Target another time, and 2 makeup brushes came off of the handle, the stick, and are
Yes.
lying at my feet. I'm like, Mom, I gotta go now. What happened? I gotta take pictures of this now. I need the phone. Call me right back. Let me know how you feel. And she
I
was
imagine
lying.
what after a while she got in you.
She got so used to, I mean, she would sit there and wait. It was like we're both detectives. I mean, she had to know what was going on. She was so involved in my life and troubleshooting, and she was, oh my gosh, she was my everything. And she would just worry about me, and then she's helping me try to figure out what's going on because it is really bizarre. But now I'm used to it, and now I've deduced
Oh,
what the elements are. So
you
I'm
did a
like,
great
thank
thing. You
God.
documented. You're documenting, which is fantastic because if you rely on memory only, it slips away.
No, yeah, and so everything has been documented, it's photographed, it's evidenced, and so now I know, and I guess I could, when I have time, I could sit and really practice on items by, experimenting and having film or
Sure.
whatever. Now that I know how to make those two, but it was so random, I don't sit there and normally have those two emotions, so. And it's
Yeah.
not easy for me to do that. But I guess under TV surveillance or people wanted to document me, then we could sit and do the experiments. But now I know. I just
Yeah,
have
but
to
it's
make those two elements
like you
come
said, the
together.
first time you were like, okay, my imagination is like totally, gone off into the stratosphere. But then, like you said, when it starts happening, you realize this is me,
Yeah,
and
it took
then
me. It was one of those moments where after I jumped around in the bread aisle and nothing fell and nobody was in the aisle but me, I started thinking, you know what? It's just one of those things you just know. And I'm like, I think this is me. But for now, we're just going to say it isn't until I can figure it out.
okay,
And then I made another. I was at a conscious expo. This was the second time it happened. I was at a conscious expo in LA, and obviously the energy from all those psychics. And I was buying some oil, and I stopped to smell the oil, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, from over probably 50 feet up in the air, a little ring around the lighting comes off, hits the back of the booth where I'm standing, and cuts across this woman's shoulder that I was just going to buy the oil from.
oh,
So now you can only imagine I'm standing there like, crap, you did, you did this. What are the odds of something that is 50 feet up in the
Yes.
air in the Hilton or wherever we were, some fancy hotel, coming off right when you're standing there.
And you're
And
like,
then I would have been happy with it just hitting the back of the booth, but it hit and bounced off and cut her shoulder. And that's where I, for the first time, really freaked out. Because it's like,
okay.
why am I hurting people? Or why is someone hurting someone on behalf of me? You know, it really did a number on me. So much that I told her, you know what? Don't leave your booth. I'm going to go find security. I'm going to find the cameras. This is a lawsuit. I'm going to help you. And I walked throughout the hotel until I found this tiny little office with security because I felt so guilty.
Yeah, but how do you explain that to somebody?
I couldn't. I never said, you know what?
I'm sure you couldn't.
I cut you.
Right.
I just thought, you know what? She just thinks this is a freak accident. So let's leave it at that. You know you did it. You didn't mean to. I don't even know what happened. Oh, I know. I had my boyfriend at the time with me, and I caught him looking at another girl.
Oh.
And then he tried to deny it. And that built up like, you know what, nobody's going to pull that on me. So once again, it involved a guy. So now I know guys caused me to do this. And I don't mean like that, but
no, I know exactly what you mean. That
guys are not being proper to me. So I found the security guy. I brought him over. I said, you know what, this woman, she's like, and she tried to play it off. She's like, no, it's fine. I bought the oil, but I knew in the back of
oh boy, I don't want to lose her. We got her back, yay!
Oh my gosh,
Come back, Valentina.
Let me do that. I'm going to press the do not disturb to see if that helps.
Okay, sure.
Falling through. I didn't know people. Murphy's Law, of course, when you're trying to have
of course, darling, of course.
And then, of course, everybody and their mother's calling. So at that point, that was the first time that it inflicted hurt on someone, and that got me a little worried and a little pissed off too, because like, don't use me to do this, or why couldn't just her chair have fallen back, or just something that didn't cause
and you know
blood.
What, it's like one of those things, like, what are the chances that she just happened to be at the certain angle that
I know, it just like all the elements to come together for that. I would have been happy if it just fell down and hit the back of the booth. But why did the angle have to be perfect that it just came off and sliced her shoulder? That was, and the thing is, she had a bare skin, so she was bleeding, and I'm just like, God. I mean, I wanted to pack up and just leave the expo, because I was just like, but all I can think about maybe just the intensity heightened by all the psychics and all the people there at the thing, and then me seeing him, just created once again. So now that I've narrowed it down to that, I can have more control over it. I can't stop it from happening. Like I said, it's happened 4 or 5 more times after that.
Right.
But now I can at least learn to work with it.
Right. Exactly. And that definitely is a process. Let me ask you, when you do the psychometry, have you ever gone someplace where somebody's asked you, either for somebody that's passed away, or for any police departments, or in other words, where people bring you something like, we need to find a direction to go with whatever it is?
Not yet. People contact me for missing persons cases.
Right.
To them. I've yet to be given an item, so I just tune into the person via the picture.
Okay.
And am able to, if they're missing, I can track them down. If they're deceased, I can track them down and talk to them.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I haven't been given so many cases, so I'm
okay.
That's the next phase. I just got a case Saturday, so I was like, yay, more. But I really want to do that and start pushing those gifts to tune into that, because the few cases I have taken were correct, and I had hits, and there was information.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, good. I'm always pushing my gifts. When I'm not working, I'm always working. I'll sit at the stoplight and go, okay, tune into what's the next color of the car coming. I mean, I'm constantly playing with my
Right,
head and
exactly.
thinking, always. So the missing persons is something I really want to get into, finding missing children.
Yes.
Again, something that feels more rewarding and definitely necessary. But yet I have yet to be given as many cases as I would like.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. And you know what?
you know,
Because of certain connections that I have out there, with certain with different networks and everything like that, I can tell you that sometimes it's not only the people that are missing, that they can't find them, and unfortunately sometimes the results are not good. Or the other
right.
way around, that sometimes they find remains, but they can't trace it back to, you know, and, and I'll be honest, I know that, the media sometimes puts, well, that law enforcement or other agencies go to psychics, but a lot of them behind the scenes do that when they need the help and they have
Right.
nowhere else to go. When it's like, what else do you have to lose? And
Exactly, and it's wonderful that it is once again starting to get that respect.
yes.
Again, not every psychic's 1,000% hitting, but
Hmm.
any little thing, because again, in the police force, you're looking for clues. So psychics can also give clues, and rather than have a broad spectrum of looking, we can narrow it down to
Yes.
something smaller, and now we can look
Exactly.
there, which costs,
Exactly.
saves manpower, it saves money, it saves time. So any way that we can work together across the board is so crucial.
Sure. And you get, what, and unfortunately, I'm going to say, especially with, some of these teenagers that end up being runaways,
Yeah.
sometimes their families get really, really desperate, and despite them not wanting to get bad news, sometimes, and I'm not going
It's
to use the word
closure, not
closure because I don't like the word closure, but they want some type of resolution, you know what I'm
right.
saying, to find out what
Right, because
happened
nobody
to
wants
their
to sit
kid.
and wonder. So at least now it's like, okay, end of that chapter, whether it's pleasant or
Right.
not. But to sit and wait for your child three
Yes.
years later to come home, we would almost rather wait that whether they come home living and breathing, which of course we
Yes.
always want. If they come home in a casket, sadly enough, at least they come home. It's just
Right.
that it's
Or
necessary.
which is, I think, what, maybe some parents that find themselves in that scenario that tortures them is that maybe at some point that they accept, well, you know what, my son or my daughter maybe has passed away, but this thing of like, what if they're just lying under a rock somewhere or under a tree or some place where somebody just threw them, that's like, let's make it worse, because at least if they get that validation, they can at least, like you said, let's go on. But now I know that I buried my child, or whatever the case might be. You know,
Right. And it isn't always pleasant, but I think
no.
the end result is to find resolve, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
because that really nobody wants to sit all day and night staring at the door.
Yeah.
So if it's whether it's the child walking through or a policeman, but let's get that wrapped up so that these people can move forward in whatever
Yeah.
way they need to.
Yes. Yes.
We always wish for the best, but sometimes it is more just like that peace of mind. Yeah, and I have worked on some where I had to give people the actual unpleasant
Yeah. Where it's like,
news while the helicopters are still flying over, the Coast Guard is still looking for the people. I said, you know what? I spoke to that person. They are in fact deceased. Um, and that's very difficult,
yes, it
first of
is.
all, to be able to tell them that when they're still out looking.
Oh, sure.
But I
Because let's
know
face it,
with
hope, hope springs eternal. Especially in a
exactly,
situation like that.
exactly, and then to sit there and tell them that, but I know with conviction because I've already talked to them, and in order for me to talk to them, not in their mind because they're walking around, but talk to them because I ask them, "Are you dead?" And they tell me, "Yes, I
Right.
am." And
Okay.
then I have to go with it. No, they will tell me. I will flat out ask, "Are you dead?" And then they'll say yes. Or I'll say, "Where are you?" And they answer, "Dead." And I'm like, okay, that
Okay.
comes through clear. That's not my imagination. That is. They will clearly say that. And I'm like, crap. I was really hoping you were going to say behind 7-Eleven or something, but
Yeah. Okay. Right. Or I ran off to
you
another
know,
state.
yeah. Oh, I'm in my, I'm in the Bahamas. I'm really okay. I just didn't feel like coming home.
You know what?
So
And also another reason why I bring that up is that nowadays, that there's, a lot of this thing with the sex trafficking where they take these
Yeah.
runaways and they move them off to other cities, and maybe they're not dead. Maybe they've gone off to some other place where they're unable to reach their family for whatever reason. So even if you can tell the family, no, you know what, they're alive,
Right. They just don't
but they're
talk to
alive.
you.
It happens. It happens. And let me ask something. If anybody ever
Wait,
came
can I? What happens if I have to tinkle real quick?
oh, sure, go
Can
right
I put
ahead.
it on pause or what?
Don't
What
worry.
should I
I
do?
will talk to the audience. Do not worry. Go ahead.
Okay,
Do your
okay, I'm gonna
thing.
put it on pause. You talk to the audience. I'll be right back.
Do
I
not
drank too
worry.
much water. Wait, so I put where's the sound? Let me see.
Don't just don't worry about it. I could talk for a few. God knows I could talk for a few. So guys, what do you think? I think this is great. I usually do this monologue at the end of when I speak to my my guest, but I think this is so interesting because like I said, this is from somebody that works in the paranormal field, which is as a psychic, as a medium, and she explained, really, really well what are her gifts, and how she came about to for them to become part of her, which was unfortunately kind of like a little bit like brusque, but that there it is, and luckily she engaged with it. There's other people that never come to terms when stuff like this starts to happen to them. They just either they think they're going crazy or they totally block it off, which I think in the end gives you more problems than accepting those gifts because, I think that there's gifts, right, Valentina? Don't you think they're gifts?
Yeah, yeah. I've had just a touch. I don't like to go into religion, but every now and then somebody ultra uber religious will sit there and say, you're doing the devil's work and da da
Oh
da.
boy, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's a can of worms, and I'm like, no, because I've just stopped arguing. I'm not going to sit there and explain myself. They
Oh
can
no,
believe
forget
what
it.
they
That would
want.
be a losing argument, forget it. It's a
Exactly,
waste of time.
and everyone's fine with, I don't really push what I do. I don't try to convince people. I've sat and had long discussions with religious people, and it's funny because this happened like 3 weeks ago, and the woman's like, so, do you believe? And I could see her gears turning. She's like, so do you
Uh-huh.
believe in heaven? I go, no. I said, I kind of believe in the universe. The heaven would be a little house on the block of the universe.
Yeah, right.
But, and so with each answer came more questions, and pretty soon, I wouldn't say I had convinced her, but I opened up her mind to
Sure.
take the church teachings, which some are true,
Right.
and then incorporate some of my universal thinking. And I said, look, we kind of have the same concept. You think of God, I think of the universe.
And you know
think
what?
of,
To me, even if you both end up still thinking, the fact to me, what's most important is that two people can sit there and talk about it.
I
Okay,
know,
my
right?
problem is with the people that want to
That's
browbeat you, like, it's like, no, let's talk. Even if I
Exactly.
walk away with my beliefs and you walk away with yours, but we're able to sit there and talk like two civilized human beings, and you're not going to tell me I'm going to burn in hell or one of those
Right.
things, or that's to me, that's where
It's delightful because we're communicating and we're opening up. I already know
Yes,
your side of it because I
absolutely.
studied religion and I wasn't a big fan of it. So now I am more open-minded, universally, spiritually. And it was nice. And I was like, this was really cool. She actually was sitting and listening. And but sometimes people and I just walk away now. I don't sit and argue with people. I
Sure.
don't see anything devilish about what I'm
No.
doing. Plus, the devil really doesn't exist, so I don't even know where anybody's getting all this. But I heal people. I don't know where on the planet that is of Satan. So
Let me
it's
tell
just
you
like
something.
so silly.
Human beings can do very, very evil things. Okay, and they don't have to be a psychic or do anything like that, and they can commit very evil acts. All right.
Right.
So, I mean, that, believe me, evil comes disguised in many ways, shapes, or forms. You know what I'm saying? And when they want to label it,
Exactly.
is like, guess
Right.
what? Then sometimes it's sitting, the person that's doing something, what I call evil bad, could be sitting right under your nose, pretending to be normal.
Right. Holier than thou.
Oh, or they're, and then they're going, how many times do they find out about these people, like that BTK killer who was a church leader and he was had this perfect
Yeah,
family, and then you find out that this man was a horrific serial killer that was killing and torturing people for years. Okay, but on
right.
the outside, he looked the model citizen, you know? So sometimes evil can come disguised in the way you least expect it. So that's what I'm saying. When they come and you're like, you're evil, it's like, no, I'm not. You'd be
Right.
surprised. Sometimes it's very stealthy when the
Exactly, and so luckily it's very few and far
yeah.
between, so yeah, I did have one airplane flight last month where I happened maybe the universe is always being funny, put me next to a preacher,
Oh.
and all of a sudden, and I was trying to
Was it a
just
long
like,
flight?
it was from LA, it was a direct 5 hour. And he's like, "So, what do you do?" "I'm a preacher." And right away, I'm like, "Oh, dear God, why? Are you being funny right now?" So I go, "What should I tell him?" "You've got 5 minutes. You've got like 5 seconds. I'm an astronaut. I'm a doctor. You can tell him anything." "No, let's go for the truth." "Yeah, I'm a psychic." "Oh. Well, have you thought about Jesus?"
I was
And I
gonna
go,
say he
"Yeah,
must
I
have.
think about him a lot, but it was just like, here we go. So he's like, and then in came, he's like, I don't, he goes, "I understand what you do." He goes, but I said, "Look," I said, "I have had so many religions shoved down my throat. I've gone to church." I said, "You know what? I'm pretty much over it." I said, I'm good the way that I am. And so every time I turned around and started like try to read and get away, he wanted to ask more questions, and he wanted to be friends. He wanted me to have his
Oh
card. He wanted
yeah,
me to
he's
come to
gonna save
church.
your soul.
And I was like, "Oh, why can't this just be like, okay, I get it. All right." I was hoping, I was trying to be literally this time as offensive as possible so that
Sure.
I would turn him off. But the more I was offensive, who's ringing the doorbell? Oh, okay, hang on. The
Sure, go
more
ahead.
I was offensive, the more he just like kept going and going, and it
He
just
was
never.
probably thinking, "This is great timing. Look who the Lord sat me next to," and you're like,
Hey,
"Oh,
hang on a minute.
sure, go right ahead."
With the Craigslist, I called
Okay,
you a
I
few
hope
times. Oh
you.
my gosh, yes. Oh my God. Okay, come on in. Come on in. I didn't. Oh, was that you calling? Yeah. I forgot I had something to sell on Craigslist. I can call you back.
No, listen to me. We've
Yes.
done great. We've gone over an hour and a half, and this has been fantastic. I could sit here and talk to you and talk to you and talk to
I
you.
know. Let's do this again.
So don't worry about it. Thank you so much, Valentina. Thank you so much for spending this time. Like I
You're
said, I've
welcome.
included your link and your
Thank
information
you.
on the credits of the show. So if anybody wants to get in touch with you, they can do so.
Thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate that.
And I would love to have you back because I think we could talk
I would
lots and
love to.
lots
I
and lots.
know. I want to do this again. I would
You
love
know
to do
what?
that.
Go take care of that Craigslist thing,
Thank you so much,
sweetheart.
Marlene.
Take care, my darling. Bye
Bye.
bye. So now I can go back to my monologue. Hi, guys. So, what do you think? Getting back to what I was saying. Again, this is somebody that is part of the paranormal world. She's a psychic, she's a medium, uh, but most importantly, she's a human being. And one of the things that, again, that I bring up is that when you're involved in the paranormal, whether you're an investigator or you're psychic or you're an author or you're into a ufologist or yeah, we all have our private lives, but this interest kind of seeps in to your life where it kind of meshes. And even though I very strongly believe in boundaries between the paranormal and your world, your regular world, it's always there. And as you could tell, she, you know, has it in her life in the way that because of the gift she developed, because of what happened to her. And you know what? And I think this is a good message for anybody that does have psychic abilities or medium, that they, hey, don't fight it, unless you're totally, really, truly uncomfortable with it. And like she said, look what was happening to her at the beginning, which is what they call that Cassandra effect, which is where, Unfortunately, some of the things that come to you are not pleasant. Can you imagine that you're kind of like sensing when somebody's going to die or they got death on them or other things? And I hear that quite often. A lot of people that are psychic, that this is, I don't know, because it's because of the heavy emotion or there's a tragedy. This is what comes to them. And then they tune it and then, they're able to read other things. But, I truly, again, I'm going to repeat, I think those abilities are gifts. Some people have them more, abundance than others. I think like all things, the more you practice it, the better you become at it. I know this is going to sound like it's like a muscle. I know you've heard that before. The more you use it, the better you become at it. Okay. What she was talking about, her kinetic abilities. Again, she herself is recognizing, I now identified that it is me. I'm trying to control it, and I'm seeing, what are the triggers that bring this about. So, you know, um, for anybody out there that thinks that they've had experiences, and unfortunately sometimes, um, people, that there's, that there's something bad or there's something wrong with you. My own personal belief is there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. Okay, like again, whether you're psychic, whether you're medium or both, or you could see people that have passed on, or you just know certain things, you know. And you know what? And I know that it's difficult, especially if you live in a community or in a family that doesn't accept it. That you're like, okay, so I know that if I develop this or I come out with it, some of my family or friends, I might alienate them. But let me tell you something, you know, think good and hard about finding some type of compromise, because you'd be surprised how sometimes family and friends do come around, even if it's because of religious beliefs or because it makes them feel just uncomfortable or weird or they don't believe in it. But I think that that's the whole human being. I think that there's absolutely more than what we see, feel, hear, all the usual senses, and I think it's a little bit scary sometimes. People just like, I don't want to see that, or I don't want to know that, you know. But again, anyway, guys, I hope you liked this show. I hope you enjoyed it. I loved having Valentina. Okay, like I said, her information is in the credits of the show. Um, Subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button. All right. So you can also get notifications not only of the weekly shows, but if I do anything out in the field, which by the way, I just got contacted today for a case. I'm going to try to take you guys there when I do the case. It's real close by. I hadn't done a case in a little bit, and I just got contacted today to work on something. So let's see what happens with that. Anyway, guys, I hope you have a great week coming up. It's Monday here for me. Have a great week. Take care, and see you guys.